Hey everyone, this is Robert, and thank you for tuning in to Station Square. Today we're going to be chatting with somebody who's been in the business for a while. We have Alessandra Levy or Levi, uh,
Levy.
Levy. We have Alessandra joining me here for today's little episode. So thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, likewise. So I guess we'll just jump right into the first question. Like, what are you working on right now that you want to share or promote, or just,
Okay.
how has the last few years been like for you when it comes to VO work? Because I know we've been in a pandemic for a while, so I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a company called Infinite Rabbit Holes, and they have a really cool board game that's out. It's a Batman board game. I think I might still be in like pre-order. But I'm gonna be playing a very cool character that you might recognize. Um, and yeah, so it's actually really cool because it's a board game. But it's also has interactive aspects of it. So there'll be like you can use your phone, and so it's kind of like using AR with it, but then also there's videos that pop up when this as you like solve puzzles. It's almost kind of like an escape room, but in a board game form. And um as you sort of unlock some of these answers, there'll be videos on your phone. And yeah, I'm voicing a very iconic character. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Um, So I know that like you've been at this for a while. So was it, and also looking at your website, you also do vocal stuff like your
Yeah.
bass and your
Mhm.
producer. So um and I guess all of this just kind of began when you were a child. Like you were just creating characters and you were
Yeah.
kind of doing like the showbiz stuff. Um
Yeah.
and that's kind of, what's led you to where you are today, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I come from a very musical family. Like pretty much everyone in my family plays instruments. They also sing. A lot of experience just like acting, performing is sort of all in my family. So I think yeah, from a young age it just kind of made sense that I would be doing something with performance. So yeah, starting out when I was a kid, I took acting classes and then I was in a lot of the school shows and playing music ever since I was a little kid. My mom taught me how to play the violin, and then I started piano when I was about 5. And yeah, just kind of grew up really playing music and being very musical and performing. And so I guess just at some point it kind of led into voiceover sort of by accident. It, it wasn't in my trajectory, but then it now is, what I do full time. So it's pretty awesome.
Yep, and the rest was history, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so what were some of your first gigs in voiceover, if you recall?
Yeah. So back in around I think 2016 or 17, I was working as a producer at a voiceover studio in New York City where I'm from. I'm from New York. And while I was working there as a producer and I would sometimes cast and produce some of the campaigns that we were working on with my clients, and then I would sometimes be the one kind of hiring the talent or suggesting who I thought would be best for this role. And, yeah, and then 1 or 2 times my coworker decided to put me forward for the audition, which I was like, "Okay, sure," because they knew I had acting background. They knew I know how to be on a microphone, based on my schooling experience of being a studio music major. So, that sometimes they would put my name in also in my audition in just for fun, and one time it actually worked, and I booked a really fun spot for Google. It was Google Opinion Rewards. And so that was my very first spot. And that was back in 2017, but I actually did not go full time until 2019. 2019 is when I decided I wanted to do this as my career. So back in 2019, I think some of my first clients were mostly commercial. So I did some commercials for like HelloFresh and which I still work with them now, which is kind of amazing to be working with them all this time later. I'm trying to think who else was my first let's see. I did things for hmm. Oh, Geisinger Healthcare. That was another one of my clients, and Altice One, which used I don't know if it's still around anymore, but it was sort of like, Optimum, like Optimum, Online, which maybe is a New York-based internet and phone company. But yeah, so 2019 was my first year of voiceover, and it actually ended up kind of being it was a good first year, so it made me realize I maybe made the right decision.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, so with your music and stuff, like apparently you landed a gig with Ben Folds and with the Pittsburgh Symphony, and then you sang for numerous people, like a lot of people that have worked in the music industry for so many years. So yeah, that just definitely opened up the doors for you when it comes to voiceover.
Mhm.
And I would like to let me see. So I know that you've been doing voiceover full time, but do you still like, do gigs for like um singing for bands and,
Yeah.
do all that stuff, going back to your, I guess,
Mhm.
roots, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Yeah, definitely. So, it's actually, kind of funny, when I moved across the country to Los Angeles, it was January 1st, 2020. So, I was very much intending to, when I got to a new city, say, "Great, I'm here from New York. I'm now starting my life in Los Angeles, and I can't wait to play some music and sing in bands and play in bands and write music with people." I was really excited to also get back to my music. But then, obviously, we all know what happened March 2020. We all went into lockdown. So so it didn't, go exactly as planned. I will say I haven't been able to play as much music as I was in New York and as I'd like to. However, now that I know things have opened up a lot more and a lot of bands are getting back together and playing shows, I definitely look forward to making more music with people. But my husband, who is also a musician, we both met in music school, actually. He writes a lot of music all the time and he's always performing. And so what I've been able to do for the past 3 years, even amidst all the lockdown, is he's written a lot of things and he says, "Hey, you wanna sing on this?" or, "Hey, you wanna play some bass on this?" So, I've still been able to go back to my roots and play music, but, it's more been in, like, a studio situation of recording at home. But, yeah, I definitely look forward to maybe playing some more shows. I do miss being on stage in that way, so I think it's never over. I'm always gonna be, a musician first. So I think it's just a matter of sort of meeting the right people, getting together with friends who are also musicians and maybe, starting to play out more.
Yeah. And would you say that with those experiences of being a musician, that definitely helped you along the way when you started making the, transition into voiceover, like you carried those skills, learning what you did, as an artist, and then applying it behind the microphone?
100%. So I think, I mean, I know you've interviewed a lot of other voice actors, but I'm sure
Mhm.
you will hear the common thread of like either people being, musical theater background or music singer background or musician
Mhm.
background. I would say I know so many voice actors who started out as musicians, and I think the way it
I
really
did too, actually. Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go. See, you too. I think the
Yep.
way it really
Piano.
helps us is in the musical, right? In the musical way, because if you think about it, unless you're playing a robot, you don't want to sound very monotone. And so with music, right, you have dynamics, you have different pitches, you can be melodic, you can be staccato, you can be legato, right? All these musical terms, it actually really helps when you're recording, especially commercials. Like commercials can be very musical. And of course, when you're doing video games and animation, if your character is very enthusiastic, your character could have many musical moments. Your character might even sing words just to for emphasis. So I definitely think music and voiceover go very hand in hand. And like I briefly mentioned before, going to school for music, my major was actually studio music and jazz performance. And so the studio music aspect of it was a lot of the times we would get pieces written by some of the jazz composition majors, and they would bring us into the studio and they would give us our sheet music and they go, okay, we're going to record this, ready, go. And so we kind of had to have the cold reading, the sight singing skills, all of these skills, being learning how to be on a microphone correctly, singing on a microphone correctly. So when it came time for me to, transition over into being a voice actor for my career, it was sort of like I already had all these skills that I knew about. And of course, having to brush up on the acting classes and all that, but I will say music is so important, and I think a lot of musicians end up being really good voice actors.
Oh, 100%,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I started out with piano and it was just like, yeah, it was just totally helped me along the way when it comes to, knowing the music, knowing the timing and
Yeah.
knowing the beats and like even if you start humming or singing along to the song, like it really can't help when it comes to warming up your voice in the morning
Oh,
because I know
yeah.
that a lot of us have these, those, the vocal Vulgar. We got the fries.
Mhm.
Look at me. I'm just tripping over myself. Yeah, like we got the vocal fries and we got like, you know, the deep morning voices or
Mhm.
what have you. So yeah, it's really good for warming up if you got
Oh,
that
yeah.
nice vocal,
Oh,
that
definitely.
crispy cry in your voice in the morning. So yeah.
Yeah.
um
Definitely wanna warm up, and being a singer and having background and either warming up, playing the piano and singing along or just singing by yourself, yeah, you're right. Warming up is so important, and so it's good that musicians have this sort of background in that.
yeah. So I'm just also kind of curious as to who've inspired you? Who are some of your influences growing up? It could be like, musicians or people that you know in your life, or it could just be like any media that you've consumed when you were a wee little lad that also helped you along the way.
Yeah. Um, when I think about well, first of all, I was definitely a Nickelodeon kid growing up in the '90s. Nickelodeon
Yeah.
was my favorite place to consume all of my favorite animation shows.
Yeah.
So, I think for me growing up, my favorites were Ren and Stimpy
Oh, wow.
and Rocko's Modern
That's
Life,
interesting. Yeah. Ren and Stimpy.
and Rocko's Modern Life was another one of my
Oh,
favorites.
Rocco.
Yeah. And, SpongeBob and,
I mean, obviously.
yeah, obviously, who doesn't love SpongeBob? Even my parents, like, when we would watch it when we were kids, they would, like, sometimes sit and watch, and they thought it was so funny. But so when I think of voice, being a voice actor and who some of my influences were, like, I love Billy West. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I love Charlie Adler.
Yeah.
Those were, like, my 2 favorites growing up just because I thought it was amazing that they would play so many characters in the same show and, like, you didn't even know until you looked it up, you know? So those are kind of my, biggest influences when I was growing up. But I would say since I've become an actor, a voice actor, some of my most amazing mentors, I'd have to say, are, Debbie Derryberry and Lori Allen. They're not only some of the most talented people I know, but they are also really dear friends, and I consider, like, my guardian angels, in the business, and I love them a lot, so, yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, um, there's so many that I can name. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you got the Mel Blanc, you got the
Oh,
Tom Kenny, Jim
of
Cummings. I mean, all
course.
these people. Yeah, like where they they're just really brilliant actors. I mean, when people think of all of them, they're like, oh, they're people of 1,000 different voices, and it's like, I mean, it's not the voice, it's how they bring each specific role. Like they just the energy, just the everything that they brought into they bring, even if it's just like, a character that only has like one or two lines. So
Yeah,
they just really put their all into it.
yeah.
And it's so I really love that you mentioned Charlie because I keep wanting to take his classes, but they keep selling out
I know. Oh,
and they're
please
so
do
tough to
though.
get into.
His
Yeah,
classes
they
were
really are.
so fun. His class
Oh
was
man.
amazing, and it felt like such a cool moment for like little Alessandra to be like, "Do you realize you're taking classes with like one of your favorite childhood voices
I
that you
know,
grew up
like
like watching and
Buster Bunny
listening
from Tiny Toons, you know?
to?" Yeah, so yeah, so you should definitely try and take his class at some point. But yeah, I mean, it is really amazing, and it does go back to exactly what you said. They're all amazing actors, and that's the first
Yeah,
it's first and foremost, they're great actors. Of course, then they can create the voice around it and the character around it, but just the basis of it is that they're great actors, and then with that comes the creativity to make to choose what they sound like and what their character is.
yeah. You wanna know what I've been kind of binging as of
Oh,
late?
I
Like
do.
I'm sorry?
I do, yeah, tell me.
Like Talking Tunes with Rob Paulson, where he interviews like a lot of people that he's worked with over the years, showbiz,
Mhm.
a lot of his colleagues that he considers dear friends. I mean, what I love about the podcast, it's not like they don't talk about. I mean, like, I mean, everybody kind of has a little bit of ego inside of them, but they are big admirers. Like they
Mhm.
really love and respect each other's works and the friendship and it feels so genuine. There's no like, like plots to backstab or like it's not
Yeah,
like anybody trying to like, take each other's roles. Like
yeah,
and even with that, like when it comes to different roles and stuff, like there's stories where like they would just call up agents of like the actors who have been doing those for a while. They're like, wait a minute, isn't that their thing? Like, are they okay with it? So it's like they have a mutual respect to each other's works that they
yeah.
refer to other people. They are just each other's biggest fans, and I think that's what I really love is that everybody is wants each other to succeed, and they want
Oh,
everybody to
yeah.
be like, we all just love doing this. I mean, there's the business aspect, and there's also like, everybody just loves, we just really love each other's company.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what it
Yeah.
is. And also the work that we do that inspires people. And that is just one of the biggest things that I love about VO is like, it really help, it kind of helps people, um, become a different person than become a totally different character, a different person than themselves. It helps them out of their comfort zone. I
Mhm.
mean, for us as introverts, it kind of helps us be expressive in a way
Mhm.
that we are not able to do when we're out in public.
Yeah.
For sure. Like if we're just kids that grew up like, oh yeah, I like playing this or stuff like that. But no, this actually helps us, like how we're talking right now, pretty
Yeah.
much. It's a
Oh,
good
definitely.
way, good example. So I
Agree.
really love that.
Yeah.
It's so great.
I definitely think, being in the music industry and being in the just sort of standard on camera industry as far as acting, and then now being more on the voiceover side of things, I will say voice actors, you're so right, are some of the most supportive, um, non-competition, like not competitive. I mean, really just really good people. They're willing to share what they know. I mean, I don't think there doesn't feel like there's any sort of hiding of secrets of like, "Oh, I don't wanna tell you because I don't want you to get better than me or have more opportunities than me." It's more like, "Hey, there's room for everyone." And I feel like that's really special about the voice acting community.
Yeah. So I know that you took Charlie Adler's class, but what are some? I know you've also coached with Debbie and Lori, whom I also greatly admire. And Debbie, I've had on my podcast, so check that out.
Oh,
Plug.
cool.
Yeah, so let me see. As far as the training goes, let me see. What other courses do you highly recommend to my listeners out there
Ooh,
if they want to
um,
do voiceovers?
yeah. I loved working with Richard Horvitz too, who is another one of
Yes,
my idols growing up.
yes, yes, Richard.
Yes, and
Yes,
I loved him in Angry Beavers.
Zim, and need I
Oh,
go
and
on?
Sam, of
Yeah.
course, yeah, but like I said, since I'm a Nickelodeon kid, I
Oh
definitely
yeah.
watched him on Angry Beavers, but,
Yeah.
his class was amazing. I actually did one-on-one training with him, but I also know he does classes. Um, yeah, Lori, Debbie, um, Charlie. I feel like everyone I've mentioned so
Bergen.
Oh, I've never studied with him.
Oh yeah, I mean, I never did too, but I also highly recommend Bob Bergen. I know that
Yeah.
he's doing something with Real Voice LA later this month
Oh,
that I
cool.
may be doing. So yeah,
Cool.
because I never,
I love Real Voice LA. They're so nice over there.
yeah, great people,
Yeah.
yeah, great folks.
My
So we're pretty much giving you resources like of people to study at this section. So there you go. Real quick before I continue, I've got a funny story. So like I watched Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon because those were my go-to channels as a kid. Um, SpongeBob in particular, like I remember because like it came out the year that I was born in, 99. But the funny thing is, like at first my family just did not like SpongeBob.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of like no, I kid you not. I was looking back and I've seen some like I mean, Wayback Machine, Internet Archive, they can be pretty helpful. They can be a pretty handy resource. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but yeah, back then, I think it's the same with any show that comes out where like if something, when did they get their start, it would be seen as like, okay, I don't know. But then when the show goes on, it's like, oh my gosh, this is actually really good. Whoa. I mean, people said the same for The Simpsons. They've said the same for like any Cartoon Network show that came out, like, or any new show that comes out, people are gonna be like, I don't know, it's so weird. But now it's like, I mean, it's the same with like Ren and Stimpy or Rocco. Like, they're both shows that kind of were like, they really did get better, and they eventually grew to become some of the best Nicktoons in
Mhm.
the channel's history.
Oh,
So
definitely.
I, yeah, I've been rewatching Rocco and it still holds up amazingly. And
It's
also
so good.
like
It's very
that
funny.
along with I know, and with Animaniacs, which I also very much adore, it's like they were some of the first show
Yeah.
they were some of the first shows that I've watched that they're like they snuck in a lot of jokes that you want to get as kids, and then
Yep.
when you go back and we watch them, like
Yep.
when you become an adult, it's like, wow, how did they get away with that? Okay,
Yep.
to this day, I
Ooh.
still have no idea how they got away with that, with the fingerprints joke. If
You
you
know
know,
what?
you
My
know.
dog agrees. He's agreeing with you. He's barking saying he agrees.
Oh yeah, I was seeing the dog earlier, but I didn't want to get too distracted.
Oh, I won't distract you with them, but
Yeah,
I don't know. They love to be in here with me actually, but normally they don't bark. It's probably the mailman or a squirrel in the backyard.
that too. Yeah, usually I have so many dogs. I don't own any dogs. I used to have a dog, but they ran away unfortunately. But yeah, I have
Mhm.
so many dogs. Yeah, in my neighborhood that is just kind of
Oh.
like. I mean, usually they used to be really bad, like 24/7, but now I usually hear them around like in the afternoon and
Mhm.
sometimes at night when I use the restroom. So yeah,
Up in the middle of the
pets
night.
are, yeah, pets can be, I mean, they are a lot of work, but we just love them.
Of
So
course. But to go back to what you were saying about,
yeah.
shows like Rocco and shows like Ren and Stimpy and shows like SpongeBob. Well, I was already I think I was about 10 when SpongeBob came out.
Oh,
And
wow.
SpongeBob, I remember like the day it was coming out. And I always tell Lori this story because now that I know
Oh,
her
wow.
as a friend, I can tell her these
Oh,
stories.
yeah. Pearl. Yeah.
But I told her, I said, "Lori, you will not believe the first day that SpongeBob was coming out on Nickelodeon." I remember being in the library and my friend was like, "What are you gonna do after school?" And I was like, "I can't wait to get home because there's a new show on Nickelodeon called SpongeBob and I really want to see it." And I remember for me, that first season, like those first couple episodes, I was already sucked in. I was like, "This is my favorite show. I
Me
love this show."
It's the same feeling I get when I watch Animaniacs. It's just this, and also Avatar, which is actually my favorite show, like Nicktoon on there.
Oh,
Um,
really? I'll have to
yeah,
watch that
Avatar.
one.
Yeah, Avatar, no spoilers. Like, I think it really was a game changer in a lot of ways, like, in more ways than one. That it's gonna be an entirely different. I mean, I've already had like Lusa on in one of the episodes that I did. So if you want to watch an episode that I did with, with her, definitely or them. Yeah, I don't want to they them. I'll just say that. Definitely check that out. And yeah, I would love to do another one. Like that
Oh.
Avatar conversation was so much fun. But anyways, let me see. What else is there to cuss? Yeah, so out of all the gigs or out of because I know you've done character, you've done like a lot of commercials and whatnot, so many commercials, as a matter of fact. Let
Yeah.
me see. Like what are some of the ones that you've done you consider to be particularly challenging?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think, um, I don't think I can remember one that was, like, very particularly
You've
challenging.
done so many, so it's like,
Yeah, maybe it's
yeah.
hard to remember. No, but I think for
I
me
know that it's kind of a broad kind of question, so
yeah,
my
no, that's
apologies.
okay. No, no, it's all good. Um, I don't really think I normally feel like I have challenges. I will say though, every once in a while you might have a commercial session where the spot is supposed to be 30 seconds, but maybe the way they've written it, even reading very quickly, is over the 30-second mark. So I would say that's maybe the only time that I've ever had to like work with my director and work with the writer, if the writer's on the line as well, and we'll kind of work it out to see how we can maybe eliminate some words or maybe where we can speed up here and slow down here. That way we can try to make the commercial into the 30 seconds that it's supposed to be. I would say that would be maybe the only thing that seems challenging. I mean, I love what I do and I have so much fun. So to me, it doesn't necessarily feel like a challenge. I think if, maybe I had to say things in a different language that I didn't know, maybe that would be a challenge. But I think other than that, I really haven't hit a super, super challenging commercial or character just yet.
Yeah. And when it comes to the business side,
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to ask you personally, like, um, um, if we're still gonna piggy bang off of the challenging,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
navigating the business of VO, like I know that everybody operates and works differently, so um, how or what do you mostly um like I want to say like when it comes to your work ethic, like what do you mainly do on a day? Because I know you do auditions and you have to do pretty much the general VO stuff, but what else do you have to um tackle? I'm
Yeah.
just going to say this tackle on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis when it comes to navigating the business and learning about how the industry has been changing,
Mhm.
like, especially over the last few years or so. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just give us a rundown.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's important for me to say what I did when I was starting out because that looks very different than what I do now. And I think it's important to make that distinction. So I think when I started out, because I came into the business at a time where people were kind of building their business on their own without necessarily having agents or managers. So for me, when I started, I did a lot of direct marketing to production houses and other places that had talent rosters. And I marketed to them and I marketed to production houses that I liked some of the stuff that they were creating. If they were making really cool
Oh yeah.
commercials, I would market to
That
them.
is that is very
Yeah.
crucial, by the way, super
Yeah.
important.
Oh, of course. So
Researching
that's
on
how
the yeah,
yeah. So that's
that
how I
stuff.
started. Because I didn't have an agent. And at the time,
Hmm.
we were going through this period in the voiceover industry where agents were like not as interested if you already didn't have a body of work. And so for me, I really felt like that was important for me to acknowledge that and try to build up my business on my own. So that's what my business looked like when I first started. It was mostly marketing. And then when I think I might have been on one pay to play when I first started, but then I was able to get a lot of my clients would just come back to me just to me personally. So they were like my first repeat clients. So that was really crucial for me too. To build the relationships with those clients who, 4 years later I'm still working with, which is really important to me. I think it's very important to keep clients long term or just build a relationship with them that hopefully they'll want to keep coming back to you. I think that's so important in our business. Of course it's nice to like book a big job with someone, but ideally you'd like to just continue to work with them, especially if it feels like a good fit. So that's kind of how I was originally. But these days, I have an agent and a manager. So I feel like my job is I'm kind of in here all day, every day, and I'm just auditioning. And so I will say it's a beautiful place to be. Now, of course, when there's, maybe a slow month or when I'm feeling like I'm just feeling like up for the challenge, I will go ahead and market some more, or I'll reach out back to old clients or that kind of thing. However, I do feel like because, there's some days where I might have 15 auditions, or there's some days where I might have 5 or 20. There's been some days where it's been, absolutely bonkers, and I'm so grateful and thankful for it. But I think my energy has to be in sending in amazing auditions because when you think about it, auditioning is our job. And when we book a job, it's just the, extra sprinkling on the cake. It's just like the cherry
Yeah.
on top, right, when you book, but really auditioning is our job. And so for me, what I do to be in my workflow every day is just I come in the booth, I warm up like we were talking about before, warm up, and I look at my auditions for the day and I get centered and settled, and then I just try to do the best job I can and send in really good auditions. And so that's kind of my workflow these days. Just really sending in good quality auditions and having fun.
Oh yeah, because it's a part of like you're pivoting and you're managing in between different jobs and no matter what you're doing, like I mean with me just earlier today, I was just sorting through just the auditions that I'd done and I was just sorting through emails and just organizing some stuff and yeah, like you said, we're in our booths like all day every day. Like pretty much
Yep.
this entire space here is
Yep.
kind of like, this is what I pretty much do from like sun up to sundown. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It does get exhausting, but at the end of the day, I just love doing it because it just fills me like you can see my eyes just light up
Yeah.
like I just get so enthusiastic like just
Yeah.
discussing BL and just talking about, who inspires us and honestly that's just we didn't we chose to do this. It's not like nobody like I think Rob Paulson said it best, like nobody had like a gun to our heads and just forced us to do acting.
Yeah.
Like we chose this career because it fulfills us and it gives us the
Mhm.
just the energy and it fills our soul, it fills our body, and it fills us with a lot of areas that we can explore in our lives. And if we can share it with other people, then that's just possibly the greatest gift that we could gift that we really have and that we can
Yeah.
share it to others.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh yeah, I know that you can see that this is pretty much my little, my little cave right there where I do my work. So yeah.
That's where I started out too. I started out in a
Yeah.
walk-in closet in New York City with all my
Oh
clothing and
wow.
everything in there.
Yeah. And I'm surrounded by all of these different posters because it's fun of just being just as passionate about the franchises that we love and so many people that we've met along the way. And it
Mhm.
just fills us with just the drive and the spirit to just keep going. That's really
Yeah.
the biggest piece of advice that I would close out on.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
so for you, I was looking on your website, and by the way, congrats on that gig that you mentioned earlier, being a part of a huge franchise that really means a lot to you. And
Yeah.
yeah, if they're curious, I know that some people will want to know, like, okay, so I know that you can't really discuss much else at the moment because a lot of it is under NDA, but where can people like I know you've got your website, but
Yeah.
what social media platforms are you really active on so people can,
Yeah,
hey, gonna keep in touch and all
definitely.
that good stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do have all the social media, but I will say I'm not very good at at being on all of them. I would say the one I'm on the
Yeah, that's
most
a
and I'm
mood.
yeah, I know. The one I'm the most active on would be Instagram, and,
Oh, I
it
do like Instagram.
yeah,
Yeah.
and my username is Alessandra Voice. So Alessandra Alessandra Voice. So that's the one where you can see what I'm up to and watch maybe old highlights. And sometimes I post when I book a job. Sometimes if the commercial's out, I might post a little snippet of it so people can hear me. So yeah, I would say that's the best place to find me. And then of course, like you said, my website, which is just my name, alessandralevy.com. Those are the best places to see what I'm up to. And you can see a preview for the Batman board game I'm talking about, and you can hear me. Yeah, so you can hear me as a little snippet in that. And yeah, that's usually where I keep most of my updates.
Yeah. Let me see. I guess I shared my last piece of advice. You got anything?
Um, my advice is kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying. Like we chose to do this and this is really a joy for us, and we chose to be in this profession because we love it, or we found something that feels like we can really be ourselves in it. So I would just say my most important thing that I try to do every day is I just try to um come in here and do my job and just have fun. I just try to have fun. I just try to find the fun in everything, even if it's something that, you look at the content and maybe the content doesn't seem fun itself because maybe it's very serious, or it's, the subject matter is more serious. I still try to have fun in whatever I'm doing because we have to enjoy what we're doing in life.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And for an outro, I'll just say this is Robert Jackson. Thank you for tuning into the show. And thank you, Alison, Alessandra, for joining me today. And yeah, this has been a huge pleasure. This will be going up at some point later this week. And
Cool.
yeah, just keep up to date. Just follow me on Twitter and all that good stuff. I don't know. I've got nothing else, so I'll just leave you guys with this. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned next time on Station Square. I'm Robert Jackson signing out, and until then, good night, everybody. Good night.